Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Sakura moved a pink strand away from her face. Sorry, Naruto. I have to perform an autopsy tomorrow and that alone is so much work. The young man kicked a pebble away from his foot. It tumbled a few feet away into a dimly lit alleyway. Well, how the hell am I supposed to greet you? Happy birthday. You keep telling me to leave soon. I can't even attend your party. You know, Sai actually asked me what to get you. Sai, doesn't that sound wrong? Sakura stopped in her tracks. It's just a party, she assured him. I'm turning 19. No big deal. And besides, her green eyes softened visibly under the light of the lamp post. The quicker you leave, the quicker you come back. His blue eyes turned to her neck, right at the junction of her shoulder. He froze in his tracks, standing right in front of her. 6 months training, huh? Yup, he responded, hands tucked in his pockets. Are you gonna miss me? Naruto immediately grinned. Sakura rolled her eyes starward. You gotta be kidding. Come on. Naruto leaned forward slightly, matching her at eye level. I know I'm gonna miss you, he admitted with a soft breath. It was so strange, Sakura thought. She should have been used to him always hitting on her or his attempted sweet talk. Usually, he sounded so corny that she could easily punch him for saying stupid things, but there were times when he said sincere things with such a natural face. There was no way she could feel a strong frustration. Sakura's eyes wandered past Naruto's head, towards a clothing store a few meters behind him. The store's lights were still on, with a large black, open, sign hanging on its door. To the left, a large window display of clothes and accessories littered the mannequins and floor. This must have been the 12th time she caught herself staring at that jacket. A red-orange waist-length piece with elbow-length sleeves and 4 utility pockets, 1 on each side, 2 on the chest. Naruto turned his head and then chuckled. Geez, you've been looking at that thing for weeks. Why don't you just buy it? I will next paycheck. I can wait another week. Sakura began to walk again. Naruto caught up until he was walking at the same pace. So, what's Sai getting me? She turned to him curiously. Dunno. His first thought was a gift certificate to a salon. That's nice. Yeah, something about you needing it. Sakura blinked. Her eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed in anger in 1 second flat. Naruto could feel her chakra glowing fierce, frightening colors. What's wrong? He twitched. Oh, that jerk. Sakura pounded a fist right into her palm, cracking every knuckle. He didn't get that, though. Naruto waved his hands up and down, trying to calm her. He and Ino went shopping for yours, I think. She let her hands fall to her side. That's Sai. After 3 years, he still calls me ugly, or cow, or. But that's just him. He's blind as shit. Naruto squinted. We all know how cute you are. Sakura raised an eyebrow. Cute. Well, yeah. Naruto pursed his lips forward in a frown. Real cute. He paused for a few heartbeats and opened his mouth. And I would love to keep telling you that for the rest of our lives, he said with a wide grin. I swear Naruto, you say something stupid like that again, I'll throw you into Hokage Yama. Okay. They quietly approached her apartment when the moon was bright in the sky. Sakura pulled out her key from her pocket and inserted it into her lock. Oh. Naruto fished out a key from his own pocket and held it to her. A brass key on a keychain that resembled Gamabunta. What's this? She took it from him. My spare key. So you can get my mail and stuff. Oh yeah. She placed it in her pocket and noticed him turn away. Leaving. Yeah. I got last-minute stuff to do. Sakura turned back to her door and turned the key. Sakura paused from her task and looked towards him. Naruto had his eyes on her for a brief moment but then quickly looked away to the sky, the door, then to the floor. Yes? She asked. Naruto scratched his head. Forget it. What is it? Nah. He shook his head. I'll tell you later. Alright. Sakura opened the door to her apartment and took 1 step in. And suddenly, A weight fell over her body. He would be gone for 6 months. Ever since his return 3 years ago, he was always around. Now, she wrapped her arms around his neck in a hug. She would have to get used to not seeing him again. Don't forget to write, okay? I won't, he promised, placing his hands on her waist. She pulled away and pulled a smile on her lips. And don't do anything stupid. He grinned at her. I won't, and his smile slowly faded as he said, I'll come back soon so we can go find him. Sakura's eyes fell to the floor. Go on now, Naruto told her. Lock the door. Good night, Naruto. Good night, Sakura-chan. The moment she turned the lock, she heard the wave of footsteps, as if a man broke out in a run. When Sakura woke up, she came face to face with 4 familiar faces. They were young, framed in a wooden octagon. A masked silver hair man. A grimacing blonde with blue eyes. A pink-haired girl standing in the center. A raven-haired boy with a discontent expression. That green eyes. Yeah, the spotlight shines upon you. And how could anybody deny you Coldplay? Sakura adjusted the bag more securely over her shoulder. Armed with an all-purpose cleaner and a load of rags, Sakura turned the key and opened the door. It was a week since Naruto was in his apartment. She expected to see strange growth developing from the leftover top ramen cups and 2-week-old milk cartons. Cleaning his apartment the morning of her birthday was not her idea of fun. However, she had nothing to do until that evening, when the party started. To her immediate surprise, the apartment was relatively clean. There were a few haphazard placed items due to the commotion of packing. Clothes, empty shuriken cases, scrolls laid out on the kitchen table. No food problems, no biological warfare to undergo. Sakura placed her bag on one of the chairs at the kitchen table. At the center of it stood a small cactus plant, nestled in a terracotta pot. She immediately recognized it as a gift from Gaara last year. The flowers were slightly wilting. How the hell does one kill a cactus? Sakura walked over to the sink, grabbed a cup from the drying rack and filled it with water. She returned to the plant and proceeded to feed it, pouring enough water to satisfy the plant's thirst. She drank the rest in a steady stream. After pulling the glass down, she proceeded to her task of cleaning. She rolled up the scrolls and tucked the loose leaf pages in proper piles. He was going to be teaching a 3-man team, she noticed. His contract was unsigned but filled out, set upon his table. The idea of Naruto teaching children was bizarre. He might even teach them ultra super sexy no jutsu. Sakura grimaced. As Sakura started collecting the clothes on the bed, she noticed a large, odd-shaped pile near the pillow. She gathered the pile towards her but paused when she saw a rectangular white box sitting near the headboard. She stepped closer and felt her eyes widened. On the card that was pasted to the front was, "To Sakura-chan 3." Sakura immediately dumped the clothes from her arms and reached for the box. She pulled the card open and read quietly. Happy birthday. You've waited long enough for this. Please use it, okay, because it didn't come cheap. Naruto. P.S. Wear it when I come back for our ramen date. He didn't, did he? Sakura yanked the lid off the box and stared at the red-orange fabric before her. It was the jacket. The jacket from the store. The very same one she had been eyeing for weeks. Wait, unless he ran to the store right after he dropped her off. But she would not put it past him. He always did things for her. Sakura's eyes softened as she reached for the jacket and pulled it out of the box. Immediately, she put it on, pulling her arms through the sleeves and zipping the front up to her chest. She peered around the room and looked to the nearest mirror. It was a wall mirror that hung right over his drawer of clothes. She proceeded to lift her arms up and down, admiring how the jacket fit her like a glove. The size was perfect on her. She felt ecstatic, to say the least. Happy, excited, loved, all signs of gratitude to her old teammate. They really have come a long way. Was it only 7 years ago when they first joined the same team? When Naruto always obnoxiously tried to get everyone's attention. when their team was complete. Soon, Sakura thought, he changed in such a short amount of time. Or rather, her view of him changed in such a short amount of time. He always had this huge crush on her, but deep down inside, they all saw one another as family. A smile appeared on her face. He'll be back. Truth be told, she already missed him and it had only been a week. Sakura sighed as she watched her reflection put her fists in her side pockets. She felt a piece of paper crinkle underneath her fist. Her brow furrowed towards her nose as she picked up the piece of paper. Did he leave the receipt in here? When she pulled out her hand, it was not just one piece of paper. It was 3 pieces in her hand, each folded in a square. Sakura picked one up and unfolded it. I love how you look when you're healing someone, you look so cool. That was Naruto's handwriting, she realized. She then opened the other ones she pulled out. I love how you always have extra money just in case I need someone to spot me for lunch. I love when I half a sandwich, you're always so nice to take the smaller half. Curious, she dug deeper in her left pocket and found 2 more pieces of paper. I love the way you look when you're in battle, scary and sexy all at once. I love how you're strong like Tsunade no Ba-chan, but I hope you don't look like her by the time you're 56. Before she knew it, Sakura found herself laughing out loud. And then, she became curious. She dropped to the floor, placing the 5 slips of paper on the floor and dug into the other pocket. Inside were 5 more. She unfolded them and set them on the floor as she read through each one. I love the way your eyebrows furrow together right before you sock me. I love the way you roll your eyes and smile whenever I ask you out. I love how you like ramen, like me. I love how you come back all sweaty and dirty after a mission and still look hot. I love how you're always in my head when I should be thinking about my missions. She could not help but laugh at these words Naruto left her. She could imagine him tapping his feet to an internal tune as he wrote on slips of paper, while sitting on the very same table to her right. Wait, she wondered. That was all of them, right? Sakura popped open the right pocket and reached in. Sure enough, she felt another piece and pulled it out. I love how you carve rabbit ears on my apple slices. Sakura grinned. When she thought about it, whenever she was in the hospital, Sakura always had a tendency to peel the skin upwards and cut them so twin long ears protruded out of one end of the wedge. He would always grin with a thank you, but she never realized he liked it that much. She reached deeper in her right pocket. I love how just looking at you makes me feel strong. I love it when you smile. It's like the whole world smiles with you. I love it when you nag. It gives me a chance to hear your voice really loud. She could not help but laugh, amused by how desperate Naruto sounded. I love it when you say, hi, to be, because I know that for a second, I was on your mind. Her laughter fell. It may have sounded like desperation, but upon second look, she couldn't help but marvel at the adoration Naruto had for her. The ones in the side pockets seemed to have a sillier tone, these new ones were definitely more romantic in nature. Sakura reached over to her left pocket, popping it open and found more to read. I love how I can be in a room full of people but you're always the first person I look for. I love when you tell me, don't do anything stupid, when we both know that's code for, be careful. Suddenly, she recalled her last words to him last week. I love the way you make it seem like the sun's shining when it's been down for hours. I love how I'll catch myself smiling for no reason, only to realize I've been thinking of you. I love how I know what love it's since you've been in my life. Sakura was floored. She sat with the cold wood underneath her bottom and 20 bits of paper set out in front of her. 20 phrases of Naruto, 20 proclamations of love. Sakura did not know what to make of it. She knew Naruto's feelings since they were children. He had a huge, gigantic undisputed crush on her. But he was such a clumsy oaf, she never took him seriously. But as the years moved on and they both matured, she found herself admiring him, while he always remained steady and unmoving. He was like a rock to her, a close companion, practically family. She could trust him. And even as they grew older, he made it no secret that he was still deeply interested in her. Jokes about dates and setting up marriage became so commonplace in their conversation, Sakura had learned to brush his comical advances aside. Except when he said things in a sincere voice. She could not find the initiative to dismiss him, for whatever reason. These words he wrote, his sincere and honest words, she began to feel a little guilty. Perhaps, behind his jokes, he was really serious about her. How could she have been so casual with him? But his words were truly sweet. She could tell he wrote every single word from the bottom of his heart. He deserved 10 ramen bowls, she smiled to herself as she fully unzipped the jacket. It was only then when she noticed an inner left pocket tucked tightly in the quilted lining. Sakura looked over to Ino from over a pile of flowers. There were dozens of them in an array of colors set out in front of her. She watched as Ino armed herself with a pair of scissors, wire, ribbons, and florist tape. Just some girl talk. How intriguing. Ino snuck in a smile as she held a long stem lilacs in hand. Does it involve a guy? Sakura mutely nodded her head. She reached in her pocket and pulled out a pink envelope folded in half. Without looking back at Ino, she handed it to her. Ino took it in hand and immediately opened it. What is this? She peered in and saw long slips of paper tucked inside the envelope. Ino sidestepped to an empty space on the shop's counter and poured the envelope's contents out. She picked up each slip of paper, laughing at some, smiling at others, widening her eyes at the remainder. Where did you get these? She asked Sakura when she read through the 20th one. I found them in the pockets of my jacket, Sakura told her as she reached for the inner pocket, pulling out the 21st one. And this one? That jacket? You mean from Naruto? Uzumaki. I'm gonna be Hokage Datbayo. Naruto. Ino took the 21st from her, read it and gasped. It took her a few moments to finally jump out of her stupor and grin. Who would have thought he could be so romantic? Sakura put it in its original spot. She reached over to put the others back in the envelope. Believe me, I was just as surprised as you. So what does this mean now? What are you talking about? Naruto. You and he are gonna start dating now. Sakura paused. Please, pig, don't be ridiculous. She stumbled on her words, quickly shoving the pieces of paper back in the envelope and tucking it in her pocket. Why? Ino inquired. Is there someone else? Sakura looked up at her. Is it Sasuke-kun? A part of me will always love Sasuke-kun, no doubt about it. It's just weird. What? Ino resumed to her task of making bouquets. What's so weird about this? I mean, it's not a secret that Naruto likes you. Remember last year for your birthday? He got all his summoning frogs to stand outside your window to sing, "Happy Birthday," with him. I know, my neighbors weren't too happy about the noise, Sakura remembered the odd memory with a slight grimace. But this is the first time Naruto really proclaimed his feelings, at least the first time he sounded serious. It's like, he loves everything about me. And that makes you feel. Ino trailed off. Frankly, Sakura didn't know what to make of it. She only shrugged. I don't know, weird, confused. Ino's crystal eyes widened. Like, Sakura tried to formulate her words, like I've been so stupid but I don't know why. Ino said nothing at first, only to slowly take a silver wire and wrap it around a bundle of stems. I don't see the issue here, she told Sakura. I mean Sasuke-kun was so cool and much better to admire, I think. Good looking with deep, dark, penetrating eyes, she sighed audibly and continued. Naruto never was the type. He's so loud, annoying, clumsy, not cool at all. That's not true, Sakura defended. One time he fell in the water, but there was this time, no, Akamaru bit him in the rear. Sakura tried to comb her mind of any time in which Naruto was cool, and just as she expected, she could not find one. The thing is, Ino, Naruto isn't about a cool demeanor. It's the heart he has for others. Sakura paused, recalling a year-old memory. Like one time, I managed to get a day off and Naruto was supposed to take me to the waterfalls just outside of Konoha. I was waiting all day and I was so upset that he stood me up. The next day at work, there was this little boy who was one of my patients and asked me if I knew Naruto. He asked me to thank him. It turned out that this boy fell from a tree and broke his arm. Naruto found him and took him to the hospital. The boy was so scared, so Naruto stayed with him the whole day until his parents came back from a mission. Before she knew it, a crystal vase was set out in front of Sakura's view. She could see her reflection clear as day, obstructing her view from Ino. "What are you doing?" Ino pulled the vase away and set it back into the counter's shelf. "Did you get a good look at yourself?" "What do you mean?" "You were talking about Naruto with warm eyes and a soft smile. It's pretty clear to me." "What is?" "That the cool type doesn't do it for you anymore," Ino elaborated with a knowing smile on her face. Before Sakura knew it, she took a step back from the counter. "You mean? No way. That's impossible. Naruto. I don't feel that way for him. I love Sasuke-kun. I always will." She had not talked to Ino in days. Frankly, she was too upset with it all. She had received one letter from Naruto, telling her he was working hard, of the various drunks he had to beat up once, and the old tavern lady who gave him free lunch. He also told her not to write back since he'd be on the move every few days, and therefore would not have an address to receive mail from. And he had yet to mention the jacket or its contents. She supposed it would be useless, seeing as she could not send him a response. Since when did Naruto transform into some romantic hero? It kind of made her sick, thinking about Ino's implications. Liking Naruto, well, it was laughable. Well, not entirely laughable. Hinata had a crush on him a while back, Sakura realized. And it was not as if Naruto was a bad guy. Quite the contrary. Sakura knew he was good, but her heart was accustomed with being in two pieces. Sakura was walking home from the hospital at night when she decided to take a break. She flopped down on the bench right across from the Ichiraku ramen stand. "Your large forehead magnifies your furrowed brow." Sakura sent up a glare to the person standing not too far away. "Not now, sigh." She balled her two hands in fists, placing them on her lap. "I don't feel like arguing with you. You don't have to. I merely came to ask why you look so preoccupied." He took the liberty to sit on the very same bench. In the years they had known one another, Sakura had grown to understand Sai as each day went by. His unconventional rearing prevented him from social skills, so Sakura promised herself to always try with an extra thread of patience when it concerned him. She tried to fulfill her promise even today. Is it that obvious? Yes, definitely. Didn't I say it was magnified? With my large forehead, yeah, she finished, trying her best to keep a sense of humor but failing. "I've just been thinking about some stuff." She waited for a response and watched in her peripheral as Sai leaned back on the bench, draping an arm over the backrest. "Aren't you going to ask what's been bothering me?" "No, because whether I ask or not, you would probably say it anyway." Sakura puffed her cheeks out. "Never mind then." "Very well. It's about Naruto. And Sasuke-kun." His face remained unchanged. "I don't know what's wrong with me," Sakura sighed. "I mean, I always had special feelings for Sasuke-kun. I don't know why whenever I think of Naruto, it's not just Naruto. It's Naruto plus something different." She turned to Sai only to see a blank expression. "You don't get what I'm saying." "I'm afraid not." Sakura's head leaned to the right, trying to clarify her thoughts. "Sasuke-kun, he's beautiful, talented, smart, strong, his past is tragic, and although he's lost, I know deep down inside, he wants to come back." Sakura did not notice Sai momentarily shift his eyes away from her. "And Naruto and I, well, to me, Naruto was always goofy and immature, but after a while, well, you get past all that. And he grew up. And most of all, he's loyal and caring. He's always been so supportive." She pivoted to face Sai, "But even still, I can't feel romantic about him, you know." Of course not. It's hard to be romantic with someone who doesn't have a. Would you shut up with that? He has one. Within a few moments, she blushed, mortified. Sai smiled, his eyes shut closed. Really? He did not hide his amused tone. I was performing surgery on his inner thigh once, Sakura informed him. That's how I know. Sakura's eyes widened when she noticed Sai's smile remained. Would you get back on the subject here? And that would be, how I can't possibly have feelings for Naruto. Because you have feelings for Sasuke-kun. Yes. Even if it's been 3 or so years since we've last seen him, back at Orochimaru's lair. Yeah, and even if you're quite close to Naruto. Yeah, and you trust Naruto with everything. Sakura blinked. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're making fun of me. Really? I suppose I'm displaying sarcasm in my voice correctly. Sai quietly straightened his jacket, satisfied with himself. Seriously, Sai, Sakura leaned forward, cradling her chin in her hands. I need a friend to talk to. I don't know what you want me to say, Sakura. Maybe that's the problem. She sat up straight, letting out a sigh of frustration. Be my friend, Sai. A true honest friend. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. She took a deep breath and looked Sai straight in the eyes. Naruto has always been a true friend to me. Why am I feeling so confused? If I woke up alone, I won't stop till I find you. And you are with me. 'Cause by now, I know you better than you know yourself. And I know what you really need, something corporate. Dear Sakura-chan, how you doing? Konoha must be nice this time of year. I'm leaving Suna tomorrow morning. God, it's hot as hell here. Why would anyone live in the middle of the desert? If Gaara didn't live here, man, I wouldn't have bothered to show up. But this week has been fun. Sparring with the Cage in the morning, eating awesome feasts with him at night. Kankuro tried to introduce me to these girls, but don't worry, I only have eyes for you, wink wink. Staying here really opened my eyes. I got to see Gaara's view from his position as a leader and I can't help but feel fueled. It makes me wanna get home quick and prove to the frickin' world that I'll be the best damn Hokage ever. But damn, I miss Konoha. I miss everyone. And you. I should make it a point not to travel alone. That's why I can't wait to come back and take you along. It'll be great. While we search, we could see the sights, eat our meals together, share a tent. Heh, I get excited just thinking about it. I should be coming home in a week or two. Remember? Ramen. Naruto. Sakura could hear the ropes squeaked as she set herself down on the swing seat. The view of the academies inside was dark. Iruka had locked up hours ago. She had walked into Naruto's apartment, only to quickly pick up his mail and walk out of the place, locking the door behind her. His presence was so strong, she couldn't handle it. For weeks, months even, she fought with herself, scolding herself for letting her feelings falter between two men. But damn, she couldn't control how her heart wavered when she was in his apartment or the mentioning of his name. Seeing his picture. Or when she saw a frog in the grass, for that matter. Before she knew it, he had gotten to her. She kicked her feet from the ground underneath her, causing her body to swing back and forth. Memories started pouring in, like a water faucet set on full blast. The blonde boy her parents told her to stay away from. The boy who talked big and dreamed big. Naruto, who was on her team. Naruto, who promised to reunite their broken family. Naruto, who cried alongside her. Naruto, who comforted her at her parents' funeral. Naruto, who always asked her out. Naruto, who made her laugh. Naruto, who worshipped her. Naruto, who would go to hell and back for her. It was as if the curtains were lifted from her eyes and dawn filled her vision. For years, Naruto worshipped and cherished her like some sort of angel. Sakura only realized then that she too cherished him. He was a source of strength, sturdy and true, like a rock. How could she have not seen that? Naruto was her ground, her foundation, and she could not live without him. But Sasuke. What about Sasuke? She loved him. But was it impossible to love more than one person? The two boys were very different, affecting her in different ways. While Sasuke made her heart rush, Naruto made her comfortable. While Sasuke made her heart feel so much agony, Naruto did everything he could to soothe it. So, what really is love? She asked out loud. She did not know. After months of wondering, Sakura came to a realization. These new feelings for Naruto were never new. They were a slow progression, a process contained with years of bickering and comfort. It wasn't completely impossible to love two men, right? Sakura stepped off the swing and headed home. Naruto was returning tomorrow. She wanted to get a good night's rest. Sakura-san. She blinked. Yes, Shizune-san. Are you alright? Sakura's eyes returned to the mortar and pestle before her and then continued her task of mixing herbs together. I'm fine. She peered at her work, realizing she had yet to turn it into a paste. Sakura grind the ingredients together. Naruto isn't back yet, her teacher asked when she walked in. Sakura regarded her teacher's appearance, then continued her task. She shook her head quietly. Shouldn't he have been back a week ago? Tsunade added. I think I've just been anxious, that's all. Sakura divided exact equal measurements of the paste and dropped them in small vials. We were supposed to leave together soon. I wouldn't worry too much. Tsunade reached for a book at the bottom shelf and skimmed through the table of contents. He's probably looking for the perfect souvenir for you. She turned to her student and smiled. He's such an idiot, Sakura said without any malice. What do you mean? Prepare for the worst. Tsunade sat quietly in her chair right behind her desk. She knew bearing bad news came with the territory as Hokage, but she hated the expression her pink-haired student was giving her. No one has seen him, Sakura. But this is Naruto we're talking about. Sakura felt her heart jump to her esophagus. He can't just die. There's no trace of him. He could have been captured. Sakura gulped. You mean the Akatsuki? Tsunade held her head up, eyes to the ceiling. I was stupid to allow him to leave. She turned back to the girl before her. I'll send Kakashi out for information and by next week, I'll send out a search party. I want to be on that assignment, Sakura insisted. I figured as much. Tsunade showed her the paperwork, showing her name, along with Hatake Kakashi and Inuzuka Kiba. Still, Sakura, I'm telling you to prepare for the worst. She was scrubbing down a stain off the wooden floor by the time it started to hail. Naruto should have been back 3 months ago. So where was he? I think it's about time we head back home. Sakura stopped dead in her tracks, crushing the twig underneath her foot. You sure about that? Kiba glanced over to Sakura, then back to their team leader. We do have cold leads, Shino added. But didn't we figure his last whereabouts were heading northwest from Suna, straight to Konoha? Kiba added. He can't be that far off. Unless he wandered off his path, Kakashi suggested. Sakura swallowed. Like Otogakure. All 3 men turned to her. The sudden image of an older man with a long, vicious tongue slithered into their minds. I wouldn't see why, Kakashi explained. Orochimaru is dead. I don't see why Naruto may chase after Sasuke there. But sensei, she exclaimed. This doesn't feel right. It's as if Naruto fell off the face of the earth. He may have gotten kidnapped then, Kiba said out loud while stroking Akamaru behind the ears. Her heart paused. A blurry image of Naruto's figure writhing in pain came to mind. Then we have to find them, she said with her lip in a thin line. Akamaru barked. Oh my god, you're nuts. Kiba rolled his eyes away from Sakura. He's rubbing off on you. That's too dangerous, only with the 4 of us, Shino interjected. Sakura watched as Kakashi approached her from a few feet in front of her. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi's hands rested upon her shoulders. Sakura, I know you're scared but there is nothing more here that we can do. Let's go home. She felt as if that month-long search was in vain. What if it were true? What if the Akatsuki got to him? She remembered how Gaara looked after the Jinchuriki was extracted from his body. Naruto was as good as dead without her. Thunder crashed and the room's lights flickered. No, she couldn't think like that. She had to be positive. But if he was really gone, she would have never known what could have been. As Sakura looked to the floor, she realized the spot she was scrubbing was not a stain at all, but a dark spot on the wood. She sat up, her feet tucked under her bottom as she threw the rag down. She gave up cleaning for the night, she couldn't concentrate. A part of her was wondering if she should have accepted Ino's New Year's party invitation. They would all have a late dinner at her house and then head over to the temple at midnight. Frankly, she wanted to be alone. After that mission, Sakura did not want company. She could have gone to the temple at least and asked for Naruto's safe return, but... Being here in Naruto's living space was like being embraced in his presence. Slightly scattered with random paraphernalia, but filled with character and warmth. God, she missed him. She wanted to see him again. She already lost one teammate, she didn't want to lose another. Even if she did see him, what would she say? I love Sasuke-kun, but I love you as well. It sounded horrible in her head, twice as horrible out loud. Doesn't matter if it were the truth, it didn't sound very pleasing. But she wanted to talk to him. She wanted to tell him that she missed him terribly these past 9 months. She wanted to confess to him that she finally realized his importance, that he was her foundation, her solid ground, and even though she wasn't good at showing it, she appreciated his adoration. Lightning crashed and then the lights went out. Perfect, she muttered. Using the moonlight coming through the window, she crawled over to the bed and sat down on it. Curious, she laid down, feeling the old mattress give under her weight. Sakura rested her head on the pillow and subconsciously took a deep breath. Ah, so that's what he usually smelled of, his detergent. And the sudden realization that she may not smell him, hear him, touch him, see him. She could feel a stinging sensation pool in the corners of her eyes. Sakura let the scent of Naruto's sheets calm her heart and mind to a gradual sleeping spell. She was vaguely aware of a presence in the room, but the presence didn't feel threatening, so she did not move. She could have sworn she heard a soft voice telling her to scoot over. She could have sworn she felt warmth, like a breathing blanket, being wrapped around her trunk. And she may have been imagining things, but she may have heard a steady heartbeat and the whispering of a voice. Don't kill me, alright? The male pleaded softly, just please, for the next few hours, let's stay like this. Can I just pretend you're mine? And that I can keep you? After this. The voice broke gently, choked, and then released a ragged breath. After this, no more. I promise. Was the roof leaking? She could feel drops fall onto her left temple. Her eyes felt so heavy as she forced them open. She expected to wake up face to face with her striped wallpaper or her stuffed teddy bear from childhood. Instead, she found the face of a snoring man sleeping beside her. Man. Sleeping. Beside her. Sakura let out a scream, punching him in the face, sending the man to the floor. It took a few minutes to realize that she was not in her room and the man who now sat cradling his face indeed had blonde hair. It was before 7 in the morning, but Sakura's thought process began to work. Oh my god. Naruto. She jumped off the bed and launched herself at him, hugging him tightly around the neck. Ow, ow, knee, crotch. The hell, he exclaimed in quick bursts, hunched over due to the pain. Sakura pulled back. Sorry, and then she shoved him hard in the shoulder. What the hell is your problem? You were supposed to have come back in October. I got sidetracked, he said, scratching the back of his head. For 3 months. Sakura raised her voice, holding him by the collar. I had good reason. You didn't even write. We even went out on a recon mission to find you. I thought you were lost. Sorry. Or killed. Or worse than that, kidnapped by the Akatsuki, then slowly killed. Sakura's voice seemed to rise with each passing second. I didn't mean to take. We were all so damn worried. How the hell did you think it felt, thinking you were dead? Sakura's eyes watered up as her worries began to pile up full force. Although, relief showed up, seeing him before her, It was all too much to handle. Naruto reached out to her shoulders and held her down. Look, I'm sorry, but listen, alright. Sakura hiccuped. I'm sorry I made you worry, but I had no choice. I had to take the chance. Chance? Yeah, with Sasuke. Her eyes widened at the familiar name. Sasuke-kun. What about him? Naruto took a long deep breath before admitting, I ran into him. I fought him. And I brought him back with me. The words did not fully compute in her head. What? What? I brought him back to Konoha, he told her again. He's back. She could feel a new set of tears welling in her eyes. Where is he? At the hospital. I'll take you to him. The next few minutes were like a rush. They had locked the door behind them and they quickly jogged to their destination. As they did, Naruto explained what had been happening for the past 3 months. As he was passing nearby river country, he heard Sasuke was close. He had tracked him down throughout 4 different countries before battling him in Lightning Country. The whole time, Sakura couldn't believe it. Although a part of her was relieved of Sasuke's return, she couldn't help but wonder how he would react to being in Konoha. Their last encounter years ago was so cold. Frankly, she was scared of Sasuke's indifferent stare. He led her to a room at the north end of the 2nd floor. He passed 2 Anbu soldiers standing outside the room and opened the door, letting her in. There, lying on the solitary white bed, was her lost teammate. Sakura's heart leapt to her mouth. She slowly stepped to his side, almost afraid that it was an illusion and that it was not him. His face was longer with age, new and old scars marred his skin. It looked like Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, she muttered, almost afraid her voice would break the sight of him before her. His closed eyes tightened and then relaxed, slowly fluttering open, revealing his dark eyes. He took a moment to drink in his surroundings, including the company in the room. Slowly, he sat up with his own strength and turned his eyes to her. Sakura. His dark eyes. His voice. It was really him. She leapt towards him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. Sakura let go of her tears, letting them fall on his bare shoulder. She couldn't believe it. It was real. He was real. She always wondered what it would be like to see him again, wondered when he would come back. He felt thin and he looked as if he had not received enough sleep in years. But his skin was warm, he was warm, his body was real. The thought reassured her, causing tears of joy to fall. Sasuke-kun, she muttered his name again. Sasuke blinked, slowly reached his hand up to her head and ran his fingers gently through the ends of her hair. Slowly, he let his forehead fall towards the side, letting his temple fall against hers. She heard the faint sound of a door, quietly being closed. Sakura was about to turn her head but froze when she felt Sasuke move. He reached up to her, cradling her jaw in his hands, holding her steady as he lightly pressed his forehead to hers. I'm home, he whispered. It was a dream come true for Sakura. Ino even noticed her upbeat mood due to his recent return. Not that I blame you, Ino smiled as she gathered flowers in a bouquet for the patient. I'd be happy too if I had a second chance. The thought of a second chance made Sakura blush. She recalled seeing Sasuke a few days ago. When she hugged him, he actually responded back. He held her close, looked deep into her eyes. He was so affectionate, at least for his standards, a side Sakura never saw even in their youth. Where did it come from? Could it have been years of awkwardness, melted away? Maybe the sudden realization of her importance to him. And what if his signs of affection were just a fluke? She had just wanted to see him earlier in the week but was denied access. All visitors must be cleared by the Hokage no matter what, the Anbu soldiers said. Immediately, she headed to the Hokage's office at the large town hall. She made her way down the familiar path to Tsunade's office, to the 5th floor, East Wing. She knocked on the large wooden doors and called out, Shisho. She opened it and peered into the office. Tsunade was sitting at her desk, with another person in the room facing her. Both figures turned to the open door Sakura stood at. Oh, Sakura met eyes with the blonde man and apologized. I'm sorry, I'll come back later, and closed the door behind her. Naruto. What was he doing here? Sakura took a few steps off to the side, to an empty wall space near the door and leaned back, the wall catching her weight. Now that she thought about it, it had been a few days since she had seen Naruto, not since. The sound of the door opening reached her ears and she watched Naruto turn and walk down the hall, eyes to the floor. She blinked, paused and then called to him. Naruto. She approached him. Naruto paused for a second before pivoting on his heels, facing her. Hey, he greeted. Whatcha doin' here? I came here to get clearance to visit Sasuke-kun, she answered honestly. And ask if I could be his main caretaker. You turned in my teaching application, Naruto informed. A faint memory of some paperwork found in his room came to mind. Oh, that's right, teaching Genin. She watched him nod and slowly turn his head to the side. To her, he looked distracted, detached in fact, from his current physical state, as if his mind was too preoccupied. Hey, she had been meaning to ask him since the day he brought her to Sasuke, why did you leave the room? We could have talked, all of us. Oh, Naruto looked down, a frown forming on his face. I had something to do. But even after that, I mean, it's been about 4 years. Sakura-chan we're men. We don't talk, he explained. We try to kick each other's, laugh, and repeat. And then, Naruto pulled a grin to his face, while gently nudging her in the shoulder. Besides, I know you two wanted to be alone. It felt as if someone threw an ice cube down Sakura's back. Something didn't seem right as Sakura watched him talk, his lips pulled in a grin. His eyes didn't match his expression. They weren't in unison with his lips, Sakura realized upon closer inspection. Are you? She trailed off, looking over him once more, realizing his skin was just as scarred as Sasuke. Are you okay? He must have noticed where her eyes moved because he lifted his arm, flexing it. Oh, don't worry, I'm fine. But, oi, Tsunade no Ba-chan is expecting you, he interrupted. You might wanna go in there. For a second, she forgot the reason of her visit. Right, but Naruto, if you need me, just come by tomorrow and I'll see what I can do. Okay, will do, and patted her on the shoulder. See ya. He walked down the hall until he was out of sight. It felt as if she was bathed in a bucket of ice. With a hand to the door, she opened it and peered in, seeing the Godime sitting at her desk, drowning in piles and piles of paper. Ah, Sakura. Tsunade acknowledged her presence. Sakura greeted her teacher. Shisho, I was wondering. Before Sakura could finish, Tsunade produced an envelope from the middle of a pile from the right side of her desk. I had it prepared so you would start as soon as possible. What are those? Permission forms. You are allowed to be Uchiha Sasuke's primary caretaker, which also gives you visitation privileges during his stay in the hospital and any future holding facilities. Tsunade looked up from the piece of paper she was signing before her. Or did I guess wrong? No. Sakura hesitantly reached out and took the envelope. Thank you. But how did you know? Tsunade shrugged. I've trained you for how long now? I think I can safely say I know how your mind works sometimes. At this, Sakura smiled, said her thanks once again and left her office. It felt strange walking in his room a second time. She had shown documentation to the Anbu members before letting her in. It was as if she obtained some exclusive privileges. It had been a full week since his return. Sakura walked in that morning to find Sasuke asleep. Careful not to disturb him, she quietly pulled up a chair and set up at the end table to his left. From her tote, she pulled out a small dish, an apple and a paring knife. She sat down and began her task of carving wedges out of the fruit. When 6 wedges were neatly lined up on the plate, she placed the knife back in the bag. At the same time, Sasuke began to wake. Sakura stood from her chair and joined his bedside. Sasuke opened his eyes and immediately turned to his company. Sakura. She smiled. Good morning. How are you doing? Better, he answered while sitting up. I'm going to check your vitals. All right, she informed him. You. Sakura nodded. I'm your primary caregiver. His shoulders seemed to relax as he let her work. She checked his heart rate and breathing, asking him to lean forward or back during his procedure. She could feel his eyes on her the whole time she performed her task. You're a medic, Nin. Uh-huh. She smiled briefly. A good one, if I do say so myself. I trained under Tsunade Shisho. The Godime. She nodded, the parallel of generations not lost to her. She was positive he was aware of it, too. Not too much damage to your muscles. I didn't see any tears. You and Naruto sure had it all out, huh? The truth was, she hated the idea of fighting between the two of them, at least. Naruto and Sasuke fighting was not a new sight to her, but even still, she always felt as if she had to choose a side. Yeah, he spoke, eyes gazing off to the side. He blinked, noticing the apple slices, along with her preparation work. Are those mine? Uh-huh, with ears. It was a statement with zero emotion behind it. Sakura realized her mistake. Sorry, it's a habit. I usually cut apples for. The sudden image of Naruto, wrapped in bandages from head to toe, popped in her head. My young patients. All week I had kids to take care of. Wait, why did she lie? Sakura stepped away. If you want, I can get you another. No, it's fine, Sasuke said gently. It's nice. His own brow creased, puzzled as what to say. He reached out to the apple, took one long look at the wedge in hand before taking a bite. It was cute, Sakura thought, watching Sasuke awkwardly eat the childish-looking bits of fruit. In the blink of an eye, she remembered seeing Naruto once laughing at the apple slices. She took a deep breath. I'll be back in a bit. She exited Sasuke's room and headed straight to the garden for some fresh air. Did you see Naruto's new three-man team? Sakura shook her head. Oh, already. Apparently so. Sai sat across the table. It was lunchtime as they sat at the cafeteria. They had just finished their meals as they continued with another round of tea. His students' assignments was a teamwork exercise by having them try to retrieve 2 bells from him. An excited smile fell on her face. The bell test. You know of it. That's what Kakashi-sensei did to us when we were still genin, she exclaimed. Naruto, me, and Sasuke-kun. That's when it started, correct? Your bonds, Sai affirmed. It seemed strange to an outsider. Sai was always curious about relationships and bonds between people. To this day, he never quite understood the Naruto-Sasuke dynamic. A part of her believed that Sai left roots to spend more time with Naruto, to get closer to him, and have bonds of his own. Yes, she answered fondly. Sasuke-kun and I were the closest ones to the bells. Naruto was tied to a pole for punishment by the lunchtime hour, and we had to eat our bentos in front of him. The mental image caused her to laugh. She could still see a young Naruto spazzing out, his stomach grumbling like crazy. And then young Sasuke offering some food to Naruto, saying Naruto was no use to them if he was hungry. And her young self having to feed Naruto due to his restraints. Sai watched Sakura's face expression soften as she told him of her memories. So, how is it that you haven't spoken to Naruto? What do you mean? Her tongue tasted the roasted flavor of the green tea as she brought the cup to her lips. You and Naruto usually see each other quite often. Now, this has changed. Well, of course, I mean with Sasuke-kun back. Trying to repair our friendship, that takes time and energy. So you've made your decision. Sakura froze. What? Between Sasuke-kun and Naruto, Sai took a sip of his own tea. Do you remember our conversation last year? You were confused between your existing feelings for Sasuke-kun and your budding feelings for Naruto. Sakura's eyes widened and she looked around the room in panic. Shush. You're not supposed to say stuff like that out loud. She took a deep breath and whispered, a girl's emotions are very private. Oh, Sai said innocently, taking a mental note to what she said. So then, you've chosen. Sakura shook her head. I didn't choose either of them. But you're spending an awful amount of time with Sasuke-kun. It's part of my job. You applied to the Hokage to specifically be his caretaker. I have to repair my bonds, remember? Even if it meant for the price of Naruto's. We've just been so busy, Naruto and I haven't had time to talk. It's not on purpose. Really. Because during your hours after work, you're with Sasuke-kun. Damn, he was spying on her. Are you having me watched? No, I'm not having you watched. I'm doing it myself, Sai admitted without shame. I predicted you would choose Naruto. Sakura blinked. Why would you think that? Because he always held you in the highest regard, Sai answered. And your relationship with him seemed very strong. But I suppose that theory holds true, in regards to you. Quote. Theory, she said slowly. That women ignore men who adore them as these same women gravitate to men who treat them like crap. What? But, he continued, interrupting her right before she exploded, things changed once Sasuke-kun came into the picture again. No, you're wrong, Sakura shook her head. I haven't been thinking about them like that because, well, it's just too difficult. The idea of choosing makes me sick. Your choice is easy once you actually put a practical mind to it. Sakura watched him with tentative eyes. There will come a day when Sasuke-kun has to face his sentence, which could possibly result in jail time. Sai finished his tea and looked straight at her. A jail sentence doesn't quite promote a normal future. Something inside her began to sync with his words. I don't know. Of course, there is a foolproof way of figuring the better man for you. Sakura met him eye to eye, fully attentive to his words. Stay with the fellow who has a bigger, Sai chimed with an unapologetic smile on his face. Her teacup sailed to his head, knocking him to the floor in 1 second flat. Sakura hated to admit when Sai got to her. Aside from the jokes, there was some truth to his words. She had not spoken to Naruto in a while. Sakura stood quietly at the counter, holding a phone against her ear. She had waited for a few rings before it picked up. Sakura could feel his eyes on her. She was reading over his charts quietly at the end of his bed, her back turned to him. As soon as she had her back to him, those cold chills ran down her neck, the hairs standing on end. Sakura peered over to Sasuke, who was staring at her without any inhibitions. Sakura smiled at him. Do you need anything, Sasuke-kun? He shook his head. Quietly, she turned back to the charts. Just then, a knock came to the door. Yes. Sakura called to the door, allowing entrance. The beige door slid open and in stepped a familiar figure with a familiar set of blue eyes. Naruto. Sakura immediately put down the chart and approached Naruto. What are you doing here? Kind of an official visit, he replied with an apprehensive look. Sakura picked it up right away. She reached out to his arm. Are you okay? His blue eyes immediately turned to her, then to her outreached hand and then over to Sasuke. Yeah, I'm fine, he said as he stepped away. I just need to talk to him for a second. Unless you need to do something now. It's okay, Sakura said. I'll just go. Stay, came Sasuke's voice. You can stay. She looked between the two men. Suddenly, the air in the room grew very heavy. Naruto approached Sasuke and pulled out an envelope from his vest. It's your trial summons. Basically, I'll escort you to the village hall in 2 days, where Tsunade no Ba-chan and the council will sentence you. Sasuke snatched the envelope from him and opened it, pulling out the summons addressed to him. As he quietly read it, Sakura watched Naruto's eyes turn to her, gazing at her. Sakura blinked. Sasuke looked up from the piece of paper. I have a chance to speak on my behalf. Naruto jerked his head, quickly turning to Sasuke. Huh, yeah. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at his former teammate. The message turned into a ball in his fist and he let out a deep exhale. His other hand drummed onto his own knee as he gazed off, looking straight ahead of him to the wall in his room. You gonna run away now? Naruto asked with a smirk on his face. Teesh. Sasuke returned the smirk. I never run away. The air suddenly changed again to the familiar colors and electricity Sakura often saw in her youth. The competitiveness heightened in the room. As strange as it sounded, it was a welcoming sight to Sakura. So long as they weren't fighting to the death, everything would be fine. Sasuke-kun should be healing soon. How about the three of us go out to eat at Ichiraku, like old times? We'll even invite Kakashi-sensei and see if we can get him to pay. Nay. She turned to Naruto with a smile. He inhaled deeply, then turned away from the both of them. Sure. I gotta go. So soon. Sakura followed Naruto as he walked to the door. Yeah, gotta meet with my team. New D-rank mission. Oh, okay. Well, good luck with them. Yeah. He gave a look to Sasuke and then one last look at Sakura before closing the door behind him. Maybe you shouldn't be making plans like that, Sasuke warned her. What? Sakura turned to him. Things like plans for ramen, he elaborated. I could be put in prison by then. No, she exclaimed and immediately ran to his side. Tsunade Shisho is a tough woman, but she's merciful too. She'll listen to you. After all, she let us go on missions so we could find you. It's not her, Sasuke admitted, it's the council members I'm concerned about. Sakura's eyes turned to the floor. There was no arguing that, she admitted to herself. Sakura. Sasuke called out to her. If I go to jail. You won't. Sakura. He called again, silencing her. If I go to jail, would things change? The time in the room seemed to stand still. The way Sasuke gazed at her, he stared as if he needed her to say something. She stared back at him too, wondering what he was saying, trying to find his real question. Would things change? In his life? In hers? In theirs? Was that what he was talking about? Things would remain the same, Sasuke-kun. I would still be here for you. Something flickered in his eyes and he roughly pulled the sheets off his body, swung his legs over the edge, and let his feet touch the floor. He stood in haste. Sakura's eyes widened as she dashed to him. Her arms reached out to his shoulders, hoping to hold him down. Sasuke's hand reached out to her wrist and he clutched it. If I don't go to jail, he stood close to her, casting shadows on her face, will things change? Heat rushed up her neck within a quick heartbeat. The close proximity, the intense gaze of his eyes. Sakura had to pull her eyes away to find her voice. Slowly. He sat back down on his bed, her hand in his. The world slowed down for Sakura as she memorized the feeling of Sasuke's warm fingers around her wrist. This was probably another fluke, she thought, of Sasuke reaching out for her. And Sasuke letting go of her wrist to wrap his arms around her, that was another fluke. It took a few moments for her to realize that it was not just a fluke or even her imagination. Sasuke-kun. Ever so slowly, Sasuke's arms around her waist, pulling her to his body. He leaned forward, resting his head against her heart, listening to its beats, syncing his breathing with hers. He released a strained breath. She breathed, Sasuke-kun. He remained silent. She could feel his grip, holding onto fistfuls of her shirt fabric in his hands. His arms, they were shaking. Was he actually scared of prison? Of the prospect of losing his freedom? Of never seeing the outside world again? Sakura could feel her heart breaking at the thought. Her fingers gingerly brushed through his hair, massaging his scalp before resting her chin upon his head. The room she sat in was quite small compared to the rest of the hearing rooms. The roof sat low over their heads, with only a few rows of benches, able to sit approximately 50 people in the audience. At the other end of the room was a large chair sandwiched between two rows of benches, reserved for the Hokage and the council. Sasuke sat in another chair in the very middle of the room, facing the Hokage's seat. Sakura watched from the back of the room as Naruto took a seat close to Sasuke, at the very front of the audience section. A door from the side opened and in stepped Godime and other council members. They were different representatives of the village, from head of large clans to government officials, all 12 of them sitting on either side of the Hokage. Sakura always felt a slight discomfort during council meetings. It was even worse with this private hearing, with all its attention to the raven-haired man sitting before them. She wanted to reach out to help him, but she had no clue how. Alright, we can begin, Tsunade said. Uchiha Sasuke. You are charged with first-grade treason, leaving Konohagakure and allying yourself to Orochimaru of Odogakure. How do you plead? Wait, came a voice. Sakura's eyes widened and watched as Naruto stood to his feet. Pissed. She leaned forward and hissed towards him, 2 rows in front of her. Naruto, sit down. But he didn't hear her, or he was ignoring her. Before you say anything, he told the council, I wanna say a couple of things about Sasuke. Tsunade exchanged a few looks among her council members. When there was no protest, alright, sure. What do you have to say? Sakura's heart began to beat faster than when she first arrived in the room. Naruto remained standing in his spot at the audience bench. He scratched the back of his neck and then placed both hands on the railing in front of him. Sasuke here, he pointed to the man in question, is an idiot. Sasuke tried his best not to show a change in his expression, the corner of his mouth momentarily flinched. Sakura's eyes widened. And not only a regular idiot, Naruto added. But a huge idiot. He stressed the vowel on, huge. Sakura slapped the palm of her hand to her forehead. Oh god, Sasuke was going to jail for sure. The thing is, Naruto continued, when we were fighting, well, at the end of it, we ended up at a tie. We were lying on the ground and I asked him, now what? And he told me, let's go home. He didn't say Odogakure. And he's back here and he hasn't left or made any attempt to leave. He's here to face you all. Sakura pulled her hands away from her face. So yeah, he's an idiot, but an idiot with a duty to come back and do what he needs to do. And if you all can't see that, then you all are idiots too. And he quietly sat down. Sakura sank in her seat, gripping the bench backrest in front of her. Not only would Sasuke go to jail, but he would be tortured, Sakura thought grimly. The entire council looked at him with disapproving looks. Tsunade raised her eyebrows, not too surprised at his outburst. The other members' eyes were wide or narrowed, shocked or mentally condescending Naruto for his harsh words. Tsunade coughed. Well, Tsunade frowned. In any case, Sasuke, do you have anything to say in regards to your actions? Sasuke sat quietly, his eyes straight to the Hokage and the council. After a few moments, he opened his mouth and spoke. I'm not sorry that I left. I did what I thought was right for my clan's honor. And I did just that, I did whatever I could to Itachi. I left this village, there is no explanation or excuse. So in that, I am guilty. I'm not here to beg for forgiveness or to be let off the hook. He sat up proudly, I throw myself at the mercy of the Hokage and her council. Sakura watched quietly, as the council members sat and glanced at one another after Sasuke's speech. The council is going to discuss for a final verdict, the man to Tsunade's right announced. All 12s and the Hokage stood from their seats and retreated to a door at the side of the room. When the door closed, the intensity of the room immediately dropped. Sakura sat very still and so did Sasuke. Naruto, on the other hand, was the opposite. He was pacing near his spot on the bench, paced up and down the main aisle, and he even engaged himself with throwing a kunai into the porous ceiling and jumping to retrieve it. Half an hour passed and Naruto sat down on a seat so he could have a side view of Sasuke. Hey. Sasuke turned his eyes to his right peripheral. When you go, I'll see if I can get you a nice holding cell with a TV. Or something. Naruto smiled at his own joke. Sasuke shook his head and rolled his eyes. The side door swung open and the Team 7's eyes turned to the re-entering council members. They all quietly assembled in front of their seats and waited for the Hokage to sit in her own chair. When she did, they followed suit. Stand, Sasuke, Tsunade requested. As he did, Sakura's heart started that rapid, irregular beating again. Her nerves started to shake and she didn't even realize she was holding her breath. Uchiha Sasuke, Tsunade continued, after deliberation, the Council of Konoha finds you guilty of treason. And frankly, it's quite deserving. The moment you graduate from the academy, you are a ninja, a soldier of your village. To abandon your village is a great dishonor that cannot be erased. However, she stared directly at him, despite the stares she received from the council. However, even if it cannot be erased, it can be forgiven. Murmurs erupted from the council. Sakura's heart stopped for a second. We do expect quite a lot from our young ninjas. Tsunade raised her voice slightly over the council, hushing them, and then returned to a normal volume, and given your personal circumstances, it is understandable why you chose your path. We often forget that the strength of a village lies in its unity, and not how absolute or tyrannical the sitting government is. And often unity would mean sacrifice, forgiveness, and second chances. Was Sakura hearing her right? So here's my sentence for you, Sasuke. You are to remain within the walls of Konoha for 5 years, 3 months, and 13 days, the amount of time you have been gone. You may not participate in ranking exams during that time. You may live in the same housing you did prior to your departure. You will have to report to my office after your hospital stay to receive instructions regarding your income and occupation. Your income and occupation will be determined only by me for the next 5 years, meaning you will not be allowed outside work. If you break any of these conditions, you will be immediately incarcerated. Do you understand? Ah, well, since that's it, this hearing is adjourned. Tsunade stood from her chair, mumbled to Shizune, we need to make the contract by tomorrow morning. God, I need a drink, under her breath, and left through the side door, with the council quickly following. A weight lifted off Sakura's chest. That meant, she jumped out of her seat, ran towards the center of the room and approached Sasuke. Just as he was about to stand, Sakura wrapped her arms around his neck, hugging him close. She could not keep the tears in her eyes and she let them fall down her cheeks. You're free, Sasuke-kun. You're a free man. Sasuke did not say anything in response, only held the armrest behind him for support and then another hand to her back. Oh, I'm so relieved. Sakura pulled away from him. I thought you wouldn't make it, especially after what Naruto said. I mean, seriously, Naruto, you, her words cut off when she looked up and saw Naruto was absent from the room. Sakura. She turned to the man before her. There's something I need to do. Sakura had never ventured in this part of the village. The buildings were past repair, faded and dilapidated, a ghost town within the grand village of Konoha. The paintings of red and white fans glared back at her, like bloodshot eyes. She did not vocalize her discomfort to the person at her right. The roads were isolated and the sun was beginning to descend into the horizon. Still, she followed him into a large house. The faded yellow tape was still adhered over the open door, crisscrossed at chest height. With one grip, Sasuke ripped it aside and stepped through the threshold. The air was thick with aged wood and dust as they walked through the dark hallways. Sasuke stopped in front of an open doorway at the back of the house. Something, Sakura couldn't tell what, shook her nerves, forcing her to stand still in the doorway. Sasuke continued to the center of the room, stopping in front of the window and then sitting down. The whole time, he did not say a word, only sat down at a spot in the center of the room, feet under him. It was faint, but Sakura could see the bloodstains on the floor. This must have been where his parents died, she realized. It was sad and tragic, seeing the sole Uchiha sitting in the center of the room. She felt as if this space was sacred, like she wasn't allowed to be there. But for him not to tell her to go away or leave, maybe he wanted her there. Sakura sat upon the floor of the doorway in complete silence. She watched the light coming in through the window turn from yellow to orange. The shadows he cast stretched across the floor. 10 years, he finally whispered. Sakura looked up at him. It took me over 10 years to finally find him. And once I did, I was strong enough to end him. She whispered, do you regret it? There was a strong silence before he answered. Why didn't I say no right away? Something in the way he said that struck Sakura. There was a shake in his voice that sounded too foreign for her. She leaned forward on her hands and knees. I fulfilled my revenge against that man, the very same one who killed my parents here in cold blood. Sakura moved her hands and knees one by one until she caught a glimpse of his face. The sight made her gasp. He sat staring at the faded stains on the floor, his eyes wide, bloodshot, with tears collecting in his eyes, ready to stream. So why? He spoke to anyone who would listen. Why am I not satisfied? Her eyes softened as she watched Sasuke trying his best to maintain composure against the emotions flooding inside of him. She reached out a hand to his face, but he suddenly backed away, shocked into his present world. He sat staring straight at her, legs stretched out on the floor. She hesitantly crawled to the space between his legs. With all her strength, she reached for his shoulders and pulled him to her. Sakura cradled his face in her hands and placed a kiss on his forehead. Sasuke's eyes widened to the feeling of her lips. She then dropped her hands, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. Sasuke-kun, she could feel herself choke up. I don't think I could ever fully understand what you went through, but maybe you were hurt more than you were angry. He was your brother. Sakura stood at his doorstep in the late morning. It was the only door without a welcome mat on the floor. She knocked, holding the potted bamboo plant tightly in her hand. Within a few seconds, the door opened with Sasuke standing on the other side. Am I late? She asked, noticing that the windows were already open. No. He stepped aside to let her in. He had just left the hospital earlier that morning to pick up probation forms and paperwork at the town hall. Sakura followed after her morning shift was over, volunteering to help Sasuke clean his apartment. The place had not been touched for 6 years. Cobwebs had made a place for themselves in corners of the room and thick sheets of dust covered every surface. She marveled at the dim room. This was the first time she was in Sasuke's space. She had entered Naruto's apartment dozens of times, she even slept in his bed before. In fact, she woke up beside him the morning he came back. Sakura shook her head. She handed the small bamboo plant to Sasuke. Here you go, Sasuke-kun. A welcome home gift. Thank you, and he took it in hand. Then, soft murmurs and 2 pairs of feet were approaching from the hallway. Within a couple of seconds, 2 familiar faces appeared in the doorway. Good morning, the dark-haired man said with a smile on his face. Sigh. Naruto. What are you doing here? Just, help clean this bastard's place, the blonde answered, looking at Sasuke, then the plant. In each hand, Naruto and Sai held cleaning supplies. A mop, a broom, a bucket filled with cleaners, rags, dusters and a few masks. Naruto walked past the 2 and approached a spot near the wall of the door. He kicked the floor, sweeping his foot across it and placed the bucket down. So, let's get this over with. You, came Sasuke's voice. You're that person from before. Sai looked at him. Yes, we met some 3 years ago. Ah. Sasuke stared at him with an expressionless face. You were my replacement for Team Kakashi. Oh no, not a replacement, Sai insisted. Merely an addition. The sight of peace between them brought a smile to Sakura's face. And since we are technically members of the same team, let's be comrades, Sai invited. Friends, even, Naruto and Sakura's eyes simultaneously widened. They knew Sai's unorthodox invitation often led to him creating nicknames. Nicknames that were based on a male's characteristic. But Sakura blinked. Sasuke was practically perfect, physically, and other than a few poor decisions, there was nothing for Sai to. Let's be good friends, duck butt. A bird flew outside, its cawing and squawking loud and clear. Sakura looked scandalized. Sasuke looked too shocked for words. Naruto burst into laughter. Oh my god, you're right, Sai. He said, clapping a hand on his friend's shoulder while holding his side. Sasuke's hair does look like a duck's. Sasuke lifted the bamboo plant, ready to implant it in Sai's forehead. Sasuke-kun. Sakura stood between the two men, her hands out to Sasuke. Don't worry about him. Let's just clean, okay? Okay. Maybe you could use your hair to dust, duck ass. Naruto managed to say between his exhales. Sakura turned around and smacked Naruto on the shoulder. What the hell? Don't encourage Sai. Make sure you jump high enough when you try to dust the ceiling fan, duck ass. Sakura raised her hand to hit Naruto again, but froze when another hand gripped her wrist. She turned to see Sasuke's fingers wrapped near her pulse. She couldn't find her voice as she watched his hand move to gently hold the palm of her hand. Let's get started, Sakura, he said, his eyes on Naruto. Sakura watched as Naruto walked into the kitchen, his head hanging down, face away from sight. Sure. She picked up a feather duster as Sasuke picked up a pair of masks and a few rags before they entered his bedroom. Sakura wiped a thin line of sweat away from her brow. She spun around slowly, observing her work in the bathroom. Every surface was sparkling and shining, to her great relief. Sakura stepped out of the bathroom and walked into the bedroom. Sasuke-kun, the bathroom's done, she said, pulling off the mask. She stopped in her tracks when she found Sasuke frozen in front of a small table near the bed. She slowly walked into his room, a few steps deeper. It took a few moments to realize what he was looking at. It was a framed photo of three young genin and their silver-haired Junin teacher. Sasuke did not even turn to her when he said, "I'm almost done," as he placed the frame back in its place, standing up. He continued to wipe the table clean of dust and then proceeded to pull the sheets off the bed. A sudden cloud of dust flew in the air, leaving Sasuke very displeased. "I'll get some new rags," she tried to help out, taking her own dirty rags into the next room. "I'm not blind, Naruto. And neither is she, I think." Sakura froze in her tracks the moment she stepped into the living room, only to hear the other two in conversation as they scrubbed down the sink and counter. "Don't tell her, alright. I won't. Although you may find it admirable and right, I can't help but find it stupid. Just shut up. I know what I'm doing. Besides, I promised." Naruto, confiding with Sai, about a girl. Naruto has a new girl in his life. The back of her head suddenly underwent a strange, sinking sensation. "Ah, Sakura-san," Sai realized her nearby presence. Naruto looked up and then quickly turned away. He grabbed the long-handled duster from the counter and started to beat the cabinets with it. "Just checking on your guys' progress," Sakura chimed as she joined them in the kitchen. "You haven't been slacking, have you, Naruto?" "No," he continued to dust. "What? No snappy remark or comeback? Son of a..." Naruto suddenly exclaimed. He dropped the duster, leaned back and then crouched forward slightly. He started cursing all while rubbing his eyes. Sakura immediately jumped to the now clean sink and turned the faucet on. It gurgled and spat before it remained steady and colorless. "Did you get something in your eye?" She grabbed her wrist and pulled him to the sink. "It's probably just dust." Naruto tried to pull his arm away. "Ow." He reached to rub his eyes again. "Stupid. Foo. Stop rubbing your eyes," Sakura scolded. "Here, lean forward, eyes open." She cupped a pool of water into her palm and held Naruto's head face down in front of the sink. She placed her palm of water against his right eye, completely covering it. She retrieved a new supply of water and then repeated. She switched to Naruto's other side, repeating to cleanse his left eye in the same manner. "Is that better?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, wiping his chin of the dripping water. "Look at me," Sakura told him. "Come here, lean forward." She cradled his face a few inches away from her own, getting a good view of his blue eyes. They were red-rimmed, filled with water and tears, but nothing looked scratched. She commanded him to look in various directions as she examined his eyes. "I think I flushed out everything." She watched him close his eyes. "Do your eyes hurt?" He shook his head, eyes still closed. Sakura kept him at that close distance as she wiped his wet bangs away from his brow. You're such a pain, she said gently, almost to the level of a whisper. She continued to wipe the water droplets away from his cheeks. And ever so slightly, Naruto leaned forward. Before she could respond, Naruto pulled away, smiled, said, "Thanks, Sakura-chan," and continued to his task. Was that? No. She just imagined that, right? Naruto didn't just. She felt her cheeks begin to color. Where are those other rags? Sakura turned around to see Sasuke standing at the kitchen entrance. Oh. Sakura walked past him, picking up clean new rags from a pile on the kitchen counter. Here you go. She handed him one and said, "Let's continue, shall we?" Not keeping eye contact with Sasuke. She walked through the living room, passing Sai as he stood on the balcony, beating the dusty rags against the railing. She and Sasuke ended up in his bedroom, where she found his bed stripped of its sheets, and the surfaces covered in a new film of dust. She began her work at a set of drawers near the window, wiping them clean. What are you doing tonight? Sakura turned to him. He stood at the center of the room, near the foot of his bed, his eyes to her back. Work, she responded. I have a night shift. And tomorrow night, I'm free. Why? Nothing. He shook his head and turned away to his right, staring at the empty wall. I was just wondering if you know how to make potato croquettes, he added, because I don't. Was he asking her out? In a strange convoluted way, at least. I could teach you tomorrow night. At least, it sounded like he was. That is, if that's all right with you. That's fine. He left the room for a moment, only to retrieve the broom. He began on the far side of the room, sweeping towards the open bedroom door. While he continued, Sakura began to form a mental checklist. Potatoes, green onions, maybe some meat, carrots. Wait, how many of each should she bring? She didn't want to assume it would be just for 2 people. After all, she didn't expect to see Naruto and Sai here today. How? If she asked this, she would be completely positive it was a date. How many people am I feeding for? Now, what should she wear? She opened her closet. She couldn't wear something too nice. She was cooking, after all. But she did want to look impressive nonetheless. A dress, a blouse. Her eyes fell onto a familiar red-orange jacket, the very one Naruto gave her last year for her birthday. Slowly and gently, she pulled it out of the closet and laid it on her bed. She pulled out the pink envelope from its pocket and opened it, revealing the 21 bits of paper. As she reread the pieces, again, she became consumed by that sinking sensation. Where did this Naruto go? This Naruto that held such an adoration for her. He had loved her since they were 7. Did it suddenly go away? Now that she thought about it, he had been distant ever since Sasuke's return. Perhaps he grew tired of her. It was not a very good feeling. A small part was her ego, she had to admit to herself, but most importantly, it was ironic, he fell out of love with her around the time she started falling for him. Talk about rotten timing. But Sasuke had occupied her attention so much she had not had any time to think of Naruto or his feelings, she just had to let it go. Besides, wasn't this a good thing? Naruto did not have feelings for her anymore. Sasuke was paying attention to her. So, why did she start feeling so hollow? She watched quietly as Sasuke placed his chopsticks down. Gochu-sama. He placed his palms together, saying his thanks. Sakura hesitated in speaking. She took a breath before continuing. How was it? Sasuke turned his eyes up to her. Was it too bland for you? I mean, I tried to make it a little different. Sakura fiddled with the ends of her chopsticks. No, it's fine, Sasuke assured her. You added some seasonings, didn't you? She nodded. She was so self-conscious about the taste as she sat, eating with him a few minutes earlier. After all, this was the first time she cooked for him, and she was glad it turned out well. It was good. Thank you, he said and stood, picking up his plate in the process. No, Sakura stood, taking his plate from him. I'll take care of those. She took their dishes to the sink and began to wash them clean. She rinsed the food off, scrubbed the plate clean, and rinsed. The plate was yanked from her grip. Sakura turned to see Sasuke standing beside her, wiping the excess water droplets off the plate with a clean dish towel. He quietly set it on the counter, waiting for another. So, Sasuke-kun, have you spoken to Kakashi-sensei? Only when I was in the hospital. That's somewhat surprising, she told him. Then again, he always tries to show his tough exterior, but I think he likes doting on us like we are his family, she said with a smile on her face. It was true. Kakashi would often appear at her work, making sure she wasn't overexerting herself. And while growing up, he would also check on Naruto as well, making sure he wasn't doing anything too unnecessary, like training without food and water. Sakura could recall a time when Kakashi had brought a delirious Naruto to the hospital. Dehydration, Kakashi said with a smile. I'll drink if Sakura-chan feeds me mouth to mouth, Naruto grinned weakly. There it was again, that heavy feeling in the back of her head. She shook her head, trying to push those memories aside. But I guess he would do anything for us, Sakura added, like how he paid for your bills. Sasuke paused from his tasks. Bills? Your utilities and rent for the first 2 months, so you can get back on your feet, Sakura elaborated. He paid for them when he heard about your sentence. She paused, noting his expression of disbelief. You didn't know. No, Sasuke answered honestly, his eyes slightly widened. He shook his head and placed a dried cup down on the counter. His eyes were held downcast and he momentarily paused from his work, looking down as the water ran through the drain. No one told him. Sakura wondered. He tried to convince me to stay, Sasuke spoke out loud. That night I left, but when I saw him a few weeks ago, we barely spoke. But he cares about you, Sasuke-kun. We all do. His expression softened as he reached for the last dish, his fingers brushing hers. When they finished cleaning the dishes, he restacked them in its proper place in his cupboards. She continued to pack up all her extra supplies she had brought with her. You can have the extra groceries, she told him. His eyes turned to the counter, looking at the stacks of vegetables, seasonings and drinks she left. I'll pay you back when I start working. Don't worry about it, she insisted. Her hands fell to the top of her bags and looked to him. When do you start working? Tomorrow morning. There is a new police station that needs to be constructed. Oh, again? Her eyes fell to the bags. I have a morning shift too. The room suddenly dropped to a thick hush. What else should she say? I guess I should get going. Morning shift. Not exactly what she had in mind, but before she knew it, she picked up her bags and headed to the door. Sasuke followed her and opened the door just a crack as she slipped her shoes on. Do you work every day? Sakura looked up to meet his eyes. It really depends. I alternate between night and morning shifts with a day off in between. She watched him keep his eyes to the bags in her hand. Why? Nothing, Sasuke answered. I looked at my schedule and it says that I have Sundays and Thursdays off. Maybe we could spend more time together. If our days off coincide, that is. Did he just? He asked her out on another date, didn't he? A smile slowly made its way to her face. I would like that. I'll let you know. He nodded, bid her good night and watched her leave from sight. Another date. If she was 12, she would have been on cloud 9. So, why wasn't she dancing in the streets? She was excited, no doubt about it. However, Sakura always imagined that this occurrence would involve flowers sparkling, and skipping on her part. Maybe I've grown up, she muttered to herself. What? You've never eaten Ichiraku ramen? Screamed a scandalized voice. She knew that voice anywhere. Not too far away, merely a few yards down the street, was a familiar blonde, accompanied by 3 young ninjas. All of them looked quite small compared to Naruto. A boy with red hair, a girl with black hair, and another boy with brown. Let Naruto-sensei teach you a thing or two about excellence. Naruto-sensei. The very title caused her to start laughing. The group in front of her froze in their tracks, hearing her voice ringing through the air. The girl was the first to turn, followed by her peers. Hey, isn't that's Haruno, sensei's old classmate. And the Hokage's student, the brown-haired boy added. She approached the group, smiling to them as a greeting. Hello, and then turned to Naruto, whose back was still to her. Hey, Naruto. He paused before taking a deep breath and turning towards her, shoulders back. Hey, Sakura-chan, he greeted. Out to show them the wonders of Ichiraku. Sakura smiled. She looked down to the children and said, he's right, though. They do have some great ramen. She looked back to Naruto. In fact, you and I were supposed to go out to Ichiraku when you came back, remember? Naruto's eyes briefly turned away before he smiled at her, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, well, we both got preoccupied, right? A sudden feeling of guilt invaded her chest. Naruto's eyes quickly darted to her bags, noting the cooking tools and pans. Did you eat dinner already? He asked her. He looked behind her shoulder, staring down the direction she came from. You made dinner at Sasuke's. Her tongue felt terribly heavy. It's just that. Naruto pointed behind his shoulder with his thumb. I just thought that because your apartment is that way. Sakura's eyes moved down to his collar. Yeah, I made him dinner. There was a gentle rustle of the breeze and the children conversing in whispers behind their teacher. That's cool, Naruto told her. Best way to get a man is feed him. I'm glad you two are working things out. Sakura dared a glance to his face, meeting his eyes. Really? He insisted. It looked like he was smiling. How's your wrist? Sai looked down at the wrappings around his left wrist. Fine. I was not to par in my last Anbu mission. It appears I'm becoming sloppy, like all of you. Sakura's lip twitched, yanking the wrapping tape hard. Sai kept his eyes closed, smiling. Are you supposed to hurt patients like that? Only those who act like jerks. Sakura adjusted the wrapping to a more comfortable state. That was a quick mission, though. It was only a few days. Sai turned to her. So, I hear you've been quite busy. With Sasuke, that is. Who told you that? Naruto. Sakura froze. You've been going out on dates for the past couple of weeks. She swallowed the lump in her throat. Sasuke-kun and I were just spending time. Suddenly, she recalled the time she caught Naruto and Sai speaking in Sasuke's apartment. Sai, is there something going on with Naruto? What do you mean? Well, I hate to admit it, but I feel as if he's been avoiding me ever since he returned with Sasuke-kun. Sai said nothing, only looking at his wrist that she continued to treat. Why would he avoid you? That's why I'm asking you. Sakura exclaimed as she ripped the wrapping off the roll. I thought, maybe, do you think there's someone else? Sai's eyes widened. Like another girl in his life. Sakura elaborated. That's the only reason I can think of as to why he hasn't been talking to me. Immediately, Sai began to laugh hysterically, at least, as hysterical as Sai would allow. He bent over slightly, holding back his chuckling while Sakura stared, dumbfounded. It took a few moments for him to regain his senses. When he did, Sai sat up straight. You'll have to excuse me, but, well, this is all very interesting. Her confusion was laughable. Sakura tightened her fist. How so? Oh, well, not to you but to me. It's very interesting, Sai explained. You see, you and Naruto are both my friends, but I'm not sure what to do. Should I tell you or should I not? Why wouldn't you tell me? Slowly, her heartbeat began to thunder in her ears. Well, what if he did have someone? Sai asked suddenly, not answering her question. Sakura was struck silent. Well, she never thought about that kind of situation. What if Naruto found someone new? Don't know. Hurt, I guess. Sai raised a brow. Hurt. Well, yeah, I mean, damn, what was she trying to say? Hurt because he didn't tell me. I thought we were close. I don't know. She looked up at Sai, meeting him eye to eye. So, that means he does have one. Sai's smile stayed solid. Naruto may be enamored with a girl, but you have Sasuke, don't you? Why should that matter? Sakura was asking herself that very same question. She picked up a round apple on the side of the rack. After tending to Sai, she had a long day of surgery. She felt tired, drained and worse off, preoccupied with what Sai was speaking of earlier. Naruto was keeping something from her. Excuse me, that's 120 ryo. Sakura looked downward. It was a young girl in an apron, her long black hair pulled back in a braid over her right shoulder. Immediately, she recognized her as Naruto's student. Hello. She dug in her coin purse and gave the correct change. Here. I'm Haruno Sakura, by the way. I know who you are, Haruno-san. The girl took the coins and pocketed them. Naruto-sensei told us a lot about you. Suddenly remembering her manners, she introduced herself. My name is Sato Machiko. My family owns this store. I come here a lot. I didn't know that, Sakura admitted. She began to recall her conversation with Sai once more. Actually, do you know where I can find your teacher? Machiko shrugged. We finished a mission a few hours ago, so I don't know. Oh, okay, and she held up the apple. This is all. Thank you. Sakura left the store in a dash, walking through the center of the village. She felt compelled to roam through the streets, in search for the blonde Junin. This was stupid, she thought. She should have just waited in front of his apartment or something. That was a definite guarantee to see him, right? The trick is to visualize. She stopped in her tracks. Just outside a tea kiosk were two boys occupying an outside bench, with an older teenager standing in front of them. Once you get the right visual, the technique is easy to execute. She knew that voice anywhere. A frown formed on Sakura's face as she approached her blonde target. She felt somewhat guilty, about to interrupt a training session. But this was important. I was thinking, you know, really big ones, the student with brown hair said. But you can't have them that big. The redhead protested. It has to look balanced. Right. Naruto exclaimed triumphantly. We're looking at hourglass, not a deformed squash. Hourglass is what makes the sexy no jutsu a success. Sakura's face dropped. He was teaching that. In 1 second flat, she pulled her fist back and swung, uppercutting Naruto. He flew in the air for a few seconds before crashing into the ground, lifting out dirt and earth upon impact. You pervert, she exclaimed. What are you teaching these kids? The boys' jaws dropped to the floor, staring at their fallen teacher. Slowly, Naruto pulled himself out of the ground, dusting himself off. Just teaching them a little fun, he frowned while mumbling to himself. Whatever, she rubbed her temple for a few rotations. I need to talk to you. About what? You, mostly. Me, she hesitated. Kind of. Naruto blinked, watching her intense gaze. He could see it, the way her eyes darted to him in an anxious state. Immediately, he read it and turned to his team. We'll pick this up tomorrow. The boys said their salutations and left quietly, leaving Naruto and Sakura by themselves. When they were out of earshot, Sakura spoke. Naruto, tell me why you've been avoiding me. His eyes were wide at first, but then he immediately burst in laughter. What? No, and don't say, no, I'm not, Sakura-chan, she interrupted, jabbing a finger in his chest. I know you are, so don't lie to me. Naruto looked down to her collar, shoving his hands in his pockets. Sakura felt a new anxiety rush through her system. You haven't been hitting on me or asking me out. You and I always spent time together at least once a week. Now, I'd be lucky if I even ran into you once a week. Just tell me, Naruto. Sakura took a deep breath, is there someone? You know, someone you like. Naruto blinked. What? Where did you get that? Sai said that, not in so many words, Sakura admitted. She never did receive a straight answer from the Anbu teammate, but he did say Naruto was enamored. Damn idiot. Naruto muttered and leaned back to sit on the bench. Well, Sakura remained standing. His eyes were on the ground for some time before he looked up to her and smiled, a defeated expression on his face. You caught me. There's someone. A strange crash, like an avalanche, formed in her ears. There is. Who is she? Do I know her? No. She's, from Sunagaker. She's, one of Gaara's palace guards. Sakura's legs felt weak, compelling her to sit. She occupied a spot on the bench about a foot away from him. How long have you two? Around my last visit. Yeah. Naruto placed his palms down on the bench and leaned back on the backrest. We really hit it off and I've been writing to her since I got back home. Sakura felt something, she wasn't sure what, coat her insides, suffocating her. Why didn't she had to force a deep breath, why didn't you say anything? Naruto shrugged, well, he scratched his head. I mean, we're hitting it off so well, but we're not official yet. I didn't want to assume or jump on this. Jump. Naruto was concerned about jumping into something too fast. That didn't sound right, and if I hung around you too much, she might hear and get the wrong idea. So, no offense. Okay, that made some sense. When are you going to see her again? This week, he answered. My team is heading out to Suna, so I'm gonna drop by. Say hello. Make things official, you know. Yeah. Sakura never felt so uncomfortable before. She wanted to leave quickly as a feeling of nausea crawled up her throat. Well, she put on her best smile. Good for you, Naruto. I hope she sees what a good guy you are. You know, when you're not doing something stupid or perverted. Maybe she can come to Konoha on her vacation. She stood from her seat and told him, I had a long day, so I'll be heading home. See you. All while not looking at him in the eye. Frankly, she couldn't bring herself to. Sakura twiddled the key ring in her fingers. Thank you for walking me home, she told her companion. I had a nice time. Sasuke responded, walking alongside her. She continued down the familiar hallway in her complex, stopping at the door to her apartment. Sakura. She turned to him. Is something bothering you? You've been quiet since we left the theater. Sakura scolded herself. How could she be thinking about anything else besides Sasuke? Here she was, on an enjoyable date, thinking of nothing, she said out loud, trying to convince herself. Sasuke remained standing close by, his eyes down at her. His stare felt like weights over her head. She couldn't keep her thoughts locked up for long, could she? It's Naruto. Naruto, he stated in a flat tone. Yeah, what about him? He told me he was seeing someone, Sakura whispered. I don't know what's going through my head now, she shook her head, cradling her face in her cheeks. I mean, I should be happy for him. I am, I guess, but why didn't he tell me? I don't know why I'm upset over that. Sasuke pulled his fists out of his pockets. Am I upset over the fact he didn't tell me? She spoke out loud, trying to sort out her feelings. Over the years, we've gotten close. And I thought he would tell me everything. But even when he did, why didn't I feel bet? Sasuke reached out for her arms and pulled her to him. The action caused Sakura to hold her breath. Sasuke-kun. The red-headed boy winced and looked away to his teammates. What the heck is so damn funny, Kotaro? The brown-hair boy sitting against the wall continued to snicker. Real ninjas don't get hurt by just shots. Whatever. Michiko shook her head. You were tearing up. There you go. No harm done. Sakura placed a square gauze where the injection site was, and began to wrap it with tape. So, your first mission out of Fire Country. Are you excited? Yeah. Yuya answered enthusiastically. Aren't you gonna get shots too, sensei? Naruto stood from his seat as he shook his head. Nope. He pulled out a piece of paper from his inner vest pocket. Here, and handed it to Sakura to sign. I don't need my boosters until another 4 years, he told his students. One by one, Sakura wrote down the student's name, along with her initials, indicating she administered the specific shots. The shots aren't really for when you hit Sunagaker. It's for anything that could bite you in the forest along the way. Machiko blinked. We're not going to Suna. Sakura turned to Naruto, who was looking at his kids with wide eyes. But you said you were going this week. Well, Naruto swallowed. We are. Kotaro interrupted. I thought we were going to the outskirts of Water Country for our mission. We are. Naruto insisted. But then we're going to Suna. What for? Yuya asked. Perhaps it was time to help him out, Sakura laughed. You'll understand when you're older. But since your sensei is in a long-distance relationship, he'll use whatever chance to see his girlfriend. The three children looked at each other before erupting in hysterical laughter. You're kidding, right, Nei-san? Yuya chuckled. Sensei doesn't have a girlfriend. The female of the group exclaimed. Sakura's brow furrowed at the children. Now, I know you can't believe it, but some girls may find your teacher attractive. Her eyes turned to Naruto and watched as he clutched his head in his hands. Suddenly, it clicked in her head. Unless, Sakura narrowed her eyes at him. Naruto, did you lie about that? About having a girlfriend? Naruto stood up straight. Oh, look at the time. Thanks for your help, he said, grabbing the forms from her and opening the door. Come on, you little shrimps, time to go. Just a minute. She grabbed him by the collar and yanked him towards her. Why did you lie to me? Erg. Well, what? She exclaimed. The children exchanged looks and slowly snuck out of the room. Why did you lie? Sakura asked him. You told me you had a. Why'd you do it? Naruto just shrugged again. Joke. It was a joke. Naruto froze as his eyes fell of Sakura. She could feel her emotions simmer, steam and boil over all together until they finally broke through. Her vision became fuzzy and she released his collar, saying, That was a horrible joke, Naruto. You've been avoiding me but you don't have a girlfriend. Either way, God, you're so stupid. Naruto reached his hands out to her but stopped himself before he could. What's wrong with me? She asked herself. Why are you crying? His voice cracked through her thoughts. I'm not, she said, making sure her tears wouldn't fall in his sight. She turned her back to him, eyes to the window opposite to the wall. Why'd you do it? Whether she was referring to his lie or his avoidance, she wasn't sure anymore. Look, she heard him say, it was a stupid joke. Just forget it happened. You got other things to worry about, alright? Just worry about him. What do you? Sakura pivoted to face him but instead saw the sight of a slamming door. When Sakura came home after work, she immediately ran over to her closet, and pulled out the pink envelope from the jacket pocket. She held it close to her chest and suddenly, the tears started to form. Why did it have to be like this? Why was she feeling happiness and anger all at once? Anger that he lied, but happiness because he lied. That didn't make any sense. A strong knock came to the door. Sakura's senses jolted to attention. She wasn't expecting anyone. She wiped her tears, trying to look slightly presentable as she headed to the door and opened it. Sure. Sakura stepped back, letting her walk through the threshold. Shoji said he saw you at the hospital, Ino said as she slipped off her shoes. And that you didn't look so good. Immediately, she noticed Sakura clutching a familiar pink envelope. Oh, Sakura, were you just? Sakura shook her head, trying to camouflage the formation of tears. She felt Ino wrap an arm around her as they made their way to the table of her dining nook. She placed the envelope down in front of her as Ino took a seat across from her. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so confused. Well, Ino placed her elbows on the table, hands cradling her chin. Tell me everything that's going on in your head. Just let it out. Sakura said nothing at first and gathered her thoughts before she spoke. When you were younger, what did you imagine it would be like to kiss Sasuke-kun? Ino blinked, and then momentarily closed her eyes. Like a shoujo manga, with sparkling dewdrops, roses in the air smelling of perfume. Why, Sakura's brow furrowed in puzzlement, it didn't feel like that. The sudden drop of Ino's palms to the table shocked Sakura. You kissed Sasuke-kun. Spill. Woman. I want details. We were talking. Right outside. Sakura pointed to the door, and he grabbed me and just kissed me. Twice. And, Ino's eyes glimmered. How was it like? Cold, she answered, trying to recall it. We just came back from the movies, so we were walking outside at night, and I was shocked the first time, my eyes were open. But the second time, it was nice. Not anything like I imagined, but it was nice. Just nice. What did you imagine it should have been like? Well, kind of like yours, with sparkles and flowers, Sakura answered honestly, but really, almost like an out-of-body experience. Like it's not something I'm meant to control, she elaborated further. But once it happens, it's going to be the only thing that matters. Alright, so you're finally dating Sasuke-kun and you two even kissed. Why so glum then? Naruto lied about having a girlfriend. Ino blinked. Wait. Rewind. Sakura took a deep breath. Naruto has been avoiding me ever since he returned with Sasuke-kun. And he's been hiding something. He admitted he had a girlfriend, but it turns out he didn't. ERGH. She buried her face in her hands. Wait. Ino held her hands out. You're upset because a friend lied to you, right? I dunno. You're not upset because you were jealous he possibly had a girlfriend, right? I dunno. I don't know why. Why was I so upset that he had a girlfriend? Sakura clutched her head between her hands. Why did a part of me become so relieved when he admitted he didn't? Why has he been avoiding me? And why? Why do I think of him when I'm out with Sasuke-kun? It just doesn't make sense. Sakura placed her head down and took long deep breaths. Are you sure he's avoiding you and you're not imagining it? Positive. Sakura growled. Ino reached out for her friend's hands and held them tightly. Okay. Obviously, you're really confused. Just take deep breaths and try to really think about it. Sakura obliged, her eyes closed tight. She could see images of both Naruto and Sasuke, memories that she held dear to her. Tears started to pool in her eyes until they leaked through her shut lids. Ino, am I a bad person to love two people? Ino didn't know what to say at first. She swallowed the lump in her throat and tried her best not to stammer. No, you're not. Ino's eyes softened in sympathy. It happens. Not that she wanted to encourage stringing both men along, but you have to figure out how you love them. The same. Or do you love one more? I know I love them both, but how do I figure that out? Ino held her arms out in defeat. I don't know. That's for you to decide. Hearing that caused Sakura's heart to sink. She buried her face in her hands, face muscles fatigued from crying. You could look at it like this, Ino told her. Which one could you not live without? She had been thinking of what Ino said. Was it really that simple? Just pick one over the other. With Naruto, well, she was comfortable. She had grown close to him over the years. He became one of her best friends and he understood her. But Sasuke, her first love, the one that got away. He was such a lost soul, seeking strength, and in the end, he came back. Back to her. These past 2 months have been like a dream come true for her. She dreaded the idea of choosing. She had no idea what she would do if the time came. How hurt would the other party get? Sakura sighed. She just had to enjoy a night of yakiniku, Sakura told herself. Sakura. Wait. She looked up to the figure in front of her. Sasuke's eyes were turned away from her as he reached over to her. In his palm, he held an object for her to hold.